Somewhere inside your mind there is a sentence. You did not choose it. You cannot name it. You have probably never heard it said out loud. But it has been there for years, shaping every decision you have delayed, every risk you have circled but never taken, every starting line you have stood at and quietly walked away from. It sounds like caution. It sounds like wisdom. It sounds like the responsible voice that keeps you from making mistakes. But it is not wisdom. It is a survival instruction your brain wrote for a version of your life that no longer exists. And it has been running on autopilot ever since. Now here is what makes this more than a psychology observation. What you are about to hear is not a self-help lesson. It is a forensic investigation into a mechanism your brain is running on you right now, beneath your awareness, with complete biological precision. A mechanism so effective, so convincing, so deeply wired into how you think, that most people live their entire lives inside it without ever once realizing it is there. By the end of this video, you will see it clearly, and the moment you do, it begins to lose its power. Most people who feel stuck believe the same thing, that the problem is overthinking, that the fix is to think less, worry less, push harder, want it more. But that explanation is missing something that changes everything once you see it. The people who feel most stuck are not the ones who think too much. They are the ones whose brains were quietly trained by real experiences they often cannot even name to treat forward motion as dangerous, not consciously, not dramatically, automatically, below the level of awareness every single day. And the sentence driving that response is not loud. It does not announce itself. It sounds like reason. It sounds like patience. It sounds like you are simply being careful. But underneath it, a mechanism is running. And that mechanism has a name, a structure, and a very specific origin. This is where it begins. Before we go deeper, you need to understand why this matters more than most psychology content will tell you. We are living in an era of unprecedented external pressure. More comparison than any brain evolved to handle. More choices, more noise, more visible evidence of other people's progress on a screen in your pocket, available at any hour of the day. And underneath all of that sits a mind built not for this world, but for one that looked completely different. A mind that was designed to scan for threats, to predict danger, to keep you alive in an environment where the wrong move could be your last. That mind is now trying to navigate career decisions, relationships, creative risks, and social dynamics. And sometimes, the very intelligence that should help you forward is the exact thing holding you in place. There are 3 reasons this happens, 3 movements. Each one builds on the last, and together, they explain not just why you overthink, but why you feel stuck while the world keeps moving without you. In 1944, 2 psychologists showed people a short film. 34 seconds, no actors, no dialogue. Just 3 geometric shapes moving across a screen. A large triangle, a small circle. When they asked participants what they saw, almost nobody described shapes. They described people, personalities, drama. The large triangle was a bully, the small triangle was protecting the circle was frightened. Some invented entire backstories from nothing, from 3 shapes on a screen. What they had accidentally uncovered is something neuroscientists now call the narrative brain. Your mind is not a camera. It does not record what happens, it interprets it, constantly, automatically, before conscious thought even engages. Your brain takes raw information, a tone of voice, a pause before someone responds, a look that lasted half a second, and immediately constructs a story around it. Why did they say it like that? What did that look mean? What does it say about me that I still have not started? The story is already being written before you have a chance to question it. And when your life contains unresolved situations, decisions unmade, risks circled but never taken, the storytelling brain does not pause. It does not wait for facts. It keeps writing. And it will generate a story before it will ever tolerate silence. In the 1920s, a psychologist named Bluma Zygarnik noticed something strange about waiters in a cafe. They had extraordinary memory for unpaid orders. The moment a bill was settled, the details vanished almost immediately, but incomplete orders stayed active until resolved. The brain keeps unfinished things open. It marks them as incomplete and keeps returning to them, not to punish you, but because it genuinely believes that with enough thinking, it will find the missing piece. Now apply that to your life. The relationship that ended without a real conversation. The opportunity that disappeared before you decided. The version of yourself you imagine becoming that you have not yet stepped into. Your brain has a file open on every single one of them, and it will keep returning to those files until one of 2 things happens. Either reality gives you an ending, or you consciously decide to close it yourself. Most people wait for option 1. Most people wait for clarity before they move. But clarity almost never arrives before you move. It arrives because you moved. Deep inside your brain sits a structure called the amygdala. Most explanations describe it simply as a fear center, but that is not precise enough. The amygdala is a relevance detector. Its job is to scan every experience and ask one question. Does this matter to my survival? For most of human history, ambiguity meant danger. Not knowing what was in the dark beyond the trees could get you killed. Not reading the social dynamics of your tribe correctly could get you exiled. And exile, for most of human history, was a death sentence. You could not hunt alone. You could not survive a winter alone. The group was survival. Your brain has not updated this calculation. So when your career path feels uncertain, the amygdala sends up a warning. When a relationship feels unresolved, the amygdala flags it as a threat. When you compare your progress to everyone around you and find a gap, the ancient brain reacts as though the gap is dangerous. This is why overthinking is so often tied to comparison. Every time you see someone else moving forward while you feel still, your threat system quietly interprets that gap as evidence of something going wrong. And the mind responds the only way it knows how. It starts scanning, starts analyzing, starts searching for what you are missing, what you are doing wrong, what you need to figure out before you can move. The loop is not irrational. It is your brain trying to protect you from a threat that does not actually exist. Here is the part that surprises almost everyone. Researchers expected to find that the people most trapped in mental loops were the ones who lacked the cognitive tools to think their way out. Instead, they found the opposite. The people most vulnerable to overthinking were often among the most intelligent. That sounds backwards, so why would a sharp mind become a trap? Imagine standing in a hallway with one door. Choosing is simple. Now imagine a hallway with 100 doors. Every door has consequences. Every door has possibilities you have not fully explored. A mind with limited imagination picks a door and walks through it. A highly capable mind generates 50 scenarios before it is willing to move. This is why overthinking disguises itself as preparation. It feels careful. It feels responsible. But at some point, analysis stops producing clarity and starts producing paralysis. And the difference between those two states is almost impossible to see from the inside, because the brain rewards both of them the same way. This is the part nobody wants to hear. Your brain rewards you for overthinking, not with peace, not with answers, but with something more subtle, the feeling of progress, the sensation of doing something. Think about a rocking chair. You can sit in it and move for hours, forward and backward. You are definitely moving, but you are not going anywhere. That is the loop. Mental motion without forward progress. And because the brain loves the sensation of motion, it keeps returning to the analysis even when the analysis stopped serving you long ago. Psychologists call this the illusion of mental progress. The mind feels like it is solving something. But when real problem solving ends, you feel lighter, clearer, ready. When a loop ends, you just start a new one. We have looked at the storytelling brain. We have looked at the threat system. But underneath both of them sits a layer that almost no one reaches. And it is the layer that explains why some loops feel almost impossible to break. It is not fear of the future. It is not social comparison. It is the protection of identity. Every person carries a story about who they are, a working model of the self, a collection of quiet beliefs about what you are capable of, what you deserve, what kind of person you are allowed to become. And the mind will go to extraordinary lengths to keep that story intact. When you face a decision that could challenge your self-story, the brain does not enter a fear loop. It enters an identity protection loop. Think about the person who has been planning to start something for years. A business, a creative project, a conversation that could change a relationship. As long as it exists only in their imagination, it is still perfect. The moment they move, reality gets a vote, and reality might say no. Reality might reveal something about their capacity that contradicts the story they have been telling themselves. So the brain protects the story. It keeps generating reasons to wait, better timing to find, one more thing to prepare. From the outside, it looks like hesitation. From the inside, it is the most loyal thing the brain knows how to do. But growth requires a willingness to be wrong about yourself. To discover that the version of you that existed last year was a rough draft. The brain that cannot tolerate that disruption cannot grow. Not because it lacks intelligence, because it loves you too much to let you risk being wrong. So now look at the whole picture. A brain that writes stories before facts arrive. A threat detection system still running calculations designed for a world that no longer exists. A dopamine reward for the feeling of thinking, regardless of whether the thinking is going anywhere. And an identity protection mechanism that will keep you in the planning stage rather than let you discover something uncomfortable about yourself. These are not character flaws. This is a biological system doing exactly what it was built to do in an environment it was never built for. Because as long as you believe the loop is a personal failure, you will keep trying to fight it. And fighting it only feeds it. The moment you understand what it actually is, something changes. You stop being at war with your own mind, and that is when the real work can begin. Here is the most important thing in this entire video. Overthinking is not a thinking problem. It is a trust problem. If you genuinely trusted yourself to handle a mistake, Would you need to replay every decision 100 times? Probably not. If you trusted yourself to recover from failure, would uncertainty feel so threatening? Probably not. If you trusted yourself to adapt when things went sideways, would the comparison to everyone else feel so loud? Probably not. The loop survives because underneath it sits a quiet deficit of self-trust. Trust that if things go wrong, you will figure it out. Trust that you are more capable of handling hard things than your fear is willing to admit. Most people spend years trying to stop overthinking. They try discipline, they try distraction, and it works until the next thing triggers the loop, because they were treating the symptom, not the source. The question was never, how do I stop overthinking? The real question is, how do I trust myself enough that uncertainty stops feeling like an emergency? Those are two completely different journeys. One keeps you inside your head, the other brings you back into your life. Here is something that consistently surprises people when they first encounter it. The people who seem to be moving forward while you feel stuck are not more certain than you. They are not less afraid. Many of them are running the same loops, hearing the same doubts, feeling the same pull toward the safety of preparation. The difference is not the absence of the loop. The difference is what they do while the loop is still running. They move anyway. And here is why that matters beyond the motivational surface of it. When you act before certainty arrives, before the loop closes, before the identity is fully protected, something happens in the brain. It gets evidence, not theory, not reassurance, actual evidence that you survived the uncertainty, that the action did not destroy you, that the identity held or updated or became something better than it was. That evidence does something the loop can never do. It builds real trust, the kind that does not require certainty before it will move, the kind that has actual lived experience behind it instead of just a promise. Action creates evidence. Evidence builds trust. Trust quiets the loop, not permanently, not completely, but enough to move again, enough to keep moving. Enough that eventually the starting line stops feeling like the edge of something dangerous and starts feeling like exactly what it is. The beginning. 3 shapes moved across the screen in 1944, and people saw betrayal, protection, fear, love. The storytelling brain did not see shapes. It saw meaning. It saw narrative. It saw a world it could understand and predict and prepare for. That is not a flaw. That is one of the most extraordinary features of being human. The capacity to find pattern in chaos, to build meaning from fragments, to seek understanding in a world that does not always offer it freely. But the story the brain tells about your stuckness, about the gap between you and everyone moving forward, about the risk that waits at the edge of your next decision, that story is not a verdict. It is a draft. And drafts can be rewritten, not by thinking harder, not by finding more certainty, but by moving forward with the draft still in progress, by letting reality into the story, by trusting even slightly that the version of you on the other side of the loop is more capable than the version standing at the edge of it. The loop was never your enemy. It was a signal, and now you know what it was trying to say. It was trying to protect you, and you can honor that. You can thank it, and then you can move anyway. If something in this felt familiar, if you recognized your own brain somewhere in what we just uncovered, you are beginning to see something that most people never reach, not just why the loop runs, but what the loop is made. Because what we covered today is just the surface layer. Underneath the storytelling brain, underneath the threat system, underneath the identity protection mechanism, there are older patterns, quieter ones. Ones that shape not just how you think, but who you keep choosing to become. Next week we go there. Subscribe to the Human Signals. Because once you learn to read what is actually happening inside you, you stop being managed by it, and that changes everything. I will see you in the next one.